Hi folks, welcome back to Stacey Can. Today I'm dehydrating herbs, which is a great, simple, easy way to preserve any type of food is actually dehydrating herbs. So keep that in mind because you don't need any equipment for it. So to dehydrate, the ingredients you need are your herbs of choice. The herbs that I have today are what are considered to be tender leaf herbs. Tender leaf herbs are basil, oregano, tarragon, lemon balm, and the mints, which this is mint. This is Italian basil, and this is Greek basil that I got from my lovely neighbor, Suzanne. Thank you, Suzanne. The less tender herbs, and I'm reading it off my little deal here, less tender herbs, or your sturdy herbs, are rosemary, sage, thyme, summer savory, and parsley. And those are great ones to use. You don't need a dehydrator for it. So those are the types of herbs, just to keep in mind, that are easy to dehydrate with or without equipment. The tools you need: knives if you're going to be chopping these up, but you don't really need knives to do that because they just kind of crumble once they're dry, but maybe you might need them if you have a bunch that you're drying. Some scissors to cut off the herbs themselves, a dehydrator or something to dehydrate with if you are using a dehydrator. Paper towels, you do need them to just let the herbs set out on to dry, or to place them. You're going to just need paper towels when you're dehydrating. Some paper sacks if you are hanging them, and then clean storage containers. So those are the ingredients that you need, but this helps break it down because we have 6 different ways. You can use a dehydrator, the oven, sun, which is actually not recommended, microwave, you can hang them, or you can freeze them. Dehydrator, you need your dehydrator to be able to set at 95 to 115 degrees. If you have more humidity, up to 125 degrees. I'm going to struggle with mine a little bit because mine only has one setting at, and it's around 130 to 135 degrees. So I have to turn mine on for a few minutes, then turn it off and turn it on. So it's not terrible, but it's not great either. Oven, you need a very cool oven. You can use just your oven light in there, unless you have an oven that won't allow you to use the oven light unless the whole oven is working and on. I can turn my oven light on, and you can just place your herbs in there and leave that oven light on, which will heat the oven enough overnight to dry out your herbs, which is a great feature to have. The sun is not recommended to dry out the herbs and such outside because they do lose flavor and color in the herbs, but you can do that if that's what you choose to do. Microwave, it's a great way to do it when you're just microwaving small quantities to be prepared, but you have to follow the instructions on your microwave. It varies too much from microwave to microwave. You can hang these, which is where you would need the paper sacks and such for it. Hanging them, you would just take some clumps of them together and with a rubber band and hang them like so. Now with the tender leaf ones, if you want, you can, it's highly suggested with tender leaf, which are your mints and such, is to put a paper sack around them because they have more moisture in them. So putting a paper sack around it and poking holes in the paper sack will help draw out some of the moisture in the leaves and help them dry better, but it's not necessary. The other perk of that is when you have the sacks around them for any of your herbs, as they dry up and if they start to drop their leaves and things, then it collects in the sack and you're not losing all that great herb deliciousness. The freezer, you want to wash, drain, and dry the herbs. Don't blanch them, and then wrap a few sprigs or leaves in freezer film and place in a plastic, either the freezer bags, jars, or containers. Seal, label, and freeze. That's a great way to do this when you want to have maybe some whole fresh herbs in the winter time. So this is the basics of the ingredients that you need, and with all of that, let's go ahead and get started. Herb selection. That is one tricky thing to do, and it's always been a little tricky for me, and it was for my neighbor. The best time to get herbs is before they flower. You want to pick them before that. But for me, the window between when they are big enough to start clipping and using and when they start to flower is kind of a short window, and I often miss it. So we're just going to work with what we got. What happens if you pick them before they flower is that a lot of the good flavor is already in the leaf itself. Once it starts to flower, it starts to drain all of that energy into the flower itself, and so the leaves themselves will start to turn they'll just kind of start to die off and lose a little bit of flavor because all the energy is going into the flower itself and for future mint generations. So keep that in mind when you're doing that. Now, I've gone ahead and already just washed these and rinsed them off. Just rinsed them in the sink, that's all I did, and then laid them out on paper towels, hence the reason for all the paper towels. Then you just gingerly, for these, again, these are the, what do they call them? Tender leaf, the tender leaf herbs. You want to just pluck them like so from the stem, like I'm doing here, and then delicately lay them out on your tray, like so. We'll just lay them right here, and that's it. This is all you have to do. That is all you have to do. You just pluck them off and you lay them on the tray. I do have some in here already that I'm dehydrating little bits of, and I'm going to be continuing to do so. So that is how you prep your herbs. To just dry these out on your countertop, you just, again, you want to pluck the leaves as best as you can and let them set out on some paper towels. It takes a little time to do. You can probably just set these out, the tender leaf herbs, if you want the whole thing to set it out, but it does go quicker if you can pull the leaves away from this stalk here. Put a couple of stalks, about 4 stalks of the Italian basil onto 2 separate paper towels, and then put a paper towel on top of it and stuck it in the microwave for about a total of 1.5 minutes, but I reduced the power on my microwave to 50%. Mine kind of cooks pretty hot, so I put it to 50% and then hit 30 seconds and checked on it, and then another 30 seconds, ended up doing it a total of 1.5 minutes, and they came out great. And it's just nice and dry and brittle, just like you want. And they just crumble off. Well, as you can see, the Greek basil did not fare very well in the microwave. It is not doing well in the too hot dehydrator either. Part of it is, I think it was because it was a little too damp, but the leaves turned pretty quickly. They turned brown very quickly, and it's not really drying out as much as I would like it to. So I'm going to just continue to set these out on the counter, and we're gonna dry these overnight. So here's what the Italian basil looks like after it's been dried. And you can just simply, kind of crisp it up like so, crunch it up like so. And you can make it as fine as you want, and then store it in a container. I'm using one of my mason jars because that's how I roll. You can use a little knife if you want to chop it up and whiz it up, or you can just kind of break it up with your fingers. It's really, it's up to you on this part. That's for the Italian basil. The Greek basil, some of it, you can see some brown spots here. Some of it was, it was a little over ripe, or it was starting to yellow, basically is what I'm saying. So once again, I'm gonna go ahead and use it though. And you just kind of crumble it up. And once you get it all crumbled, oh, it smells really good, you can go ahead and, again, put it in a jar. Now, the mint is a different one. Some of the mint, it got a little too warm in the oven, and they turned a little darker of a color, which is unfortunate. But I'm still going to use it, and we're doing the same thing here. You just gently crumble it up and stick it into a jar, and you're ready to go there as well. So some of these pieces like this right here, it is not completely dry. I'm actually gonna have to put it back in the oven, but keep that in mind that when you put some heat on it, it will turn dark. I ended up doing a combination of just countertop drying and then putting it in the oven as well. Like, I set it out overnight on some 2 layers of paper towels like this, and then I put another paper towel over it so the moisture could be drawn out. And then I did put these in the oven, these trays in the oven, And I'd watch the thermometer. I have a convection oven, so I'd watch the temperature on it. And once it hit mine, when you hit start, it starts off at 100 degrees until it warms up, and then it'll go jump up to 102 or whatever. Once it hit that, I turned the oven off. The reason for that, it wasn't drying as fast as I wanted it to. They would have been fine being out on the counter, but I just kind of wanted to speed it up. You will notice on some of these, the mint I did show, but if the oven gets too hot, the leaves turn black. They turn dark, really dark. So you do want to kind of keep an eye on that, and just stand there and then turn the oven off. And then you can walk away for an hour or so and come back and check it again. Dries it out really quickly though. That was a good way to do it. If you want to choose to do it that way. Again, the countertop is just fine. But this is how you dry herbs. It's really simple. It's very, very simple to do. So I am putting the link to the National Center for Home Food Preservation site for the how to dry herb recipes. It's down below in the show notes, so you can check out the show notes there. And you please like and subscribe my page as well. It does help. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, concerns, by all means, please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook at Stacey Can. I'm on YouTube, obviously, at Stacey Can. My Instagram and TikTok is at Stacey Can. My website is www.staceycancan.com. And my email is info@staceycancan.com. So thanks again so much for joining me today. And until next time, happy canning.